Hey, it's Mr. A back at you with a special art video. We're going to celebrate 500 subs with a Draw My Life. So stay tuned to learn more about how I became an artist and why I decided to start my own YouTube channel. It all started when my parents met in downtown Chicago. Shortly after, they were moving out to the suburbs and they started a family. I have an older sister and 2 younger brothers. My mom, she was a teacher. If you're wondering where I got these teaching skills from, it was from her. She was always coming up with fun activities for us to do and inspiring us to take action on what we believed in. My dad studied engineering in school, but with his brother, he started a company where they had a couple trucks and they would essentially go around to construction sites and use any recyclable materials and sell that to be reused or recycled. That meant unlimited art supplies. So whether it was wood, steel, or glass, or torches, welding equipment, I always had stuff to keep myself busy. It didn't take long for my parents to realize I was interested in art. My mom took me to see an illustrator speak at the local library. I remember him teaching us how to draw a dog. I ended up drawing this thing like 100 times. And after that, I just turned all my interests into a drawing obsession. So dinosaurs, or it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you name it. I was always learning through drawing. At about the age of 10, I started going into work with my dad, and he'd let me hang out in the garage and mess around with the tools. One time I watched a documentary about a glass artist named Dale Chihuly, and I smashed a light bulb and melted it into a flower on the end of a steel rod. It was kind of dangerous, but I was fascinated with how you could basically make such a beautiful thing out of garbage. In middle school, I remember art being kind of a chaotic place, but it wasn't until I discovered this book about an artist named Keith Haring that I discovered this amazing type of art that just really connected with me. It was both playful and serious. It was the first time I started thinking about art for art's sake. This mixture of kind of being rebellious but creative at the same time was perfect for a skater boy like me. I loved the bright and aggressive artwork on all the skateboards and t-shirts in that scene, and that carried over later on in my work. All that energy went somewhere, and it turned into my next passion, rock and roll. I picked up my first electric guitar for like $100, and ever since then, I've been rocking out. I love all sorts of music, but it started with the guitar. I would play for hours a day, but there's not a single day in the studio where I don't have music on the stereo or headphones plugged in. By the time I was headed to high school, I thought my career was figured out. I was going to be a rock star. Well, I loved everything in high school, but I started hanging out in the art room more, eating my lunch there, talking to my art teacher, and it just seemed like a really chill place where I could combine everything I was passionate about. I was still doing really well in math and science and wanted to be an engineer, but I started hearing about artists like Rene Magritte. Really interesting out there stuff. But what should I do? I had already applied as an engineer, but wanted to be a musician, and I didn't have a portfolio to apply to art school. Basically, I went to my art teacher, and I had won some award, and he was just like, why don't you just become an artist? I guess I hadn't really had the confidence to recognize that might be what I was going to do, but I brought it to my parents, and they basically said, yeah, why don't you just get an education degree as well? So I got busy, I changed my schedule senior year to be all art, and I used my new portfolio to apply to colleges. What I didn't know is that my portfolio would win a national award even before getting to college. So before you know it, I was on a plane to New York City. My portfolio had won in the National Scholastics Art Competition. I won a Silver Key Portfolio Award. Apparently, Andy Warhol had won when he was in high school. But standing on the stage of Carnegie Hall made me realize this is something I can do. Now, deciding on colleges was a difficult decision, but at Illinois it was a Big Ten experience. In Brooklyn, it was Pratt. It was very specialized, and I just wanted more variety and a real college experience. Not to mention, Pratt was 3 times more expensive. My dad was like, you could travel 3 times around the world for that price. So I went with Illinois, and I'm happy I did. I started off strong with a foundation year where we had drawing, design, and art history, but I got involved in the rock climbing club and even joined the handball team. It was a ton of fun. I met so many people, and I was definitely developing as a young artist, but I majored in art education and painting studio. I even had to spend a full year in life drawing. Let's just say the clothes were, well, non-existent. I had to learn lesson plans and teach on Saturdays to get my education degree, but I'm happy I did, because almost 9 years later, I'm still kicking. As a painting major, I learned a ton of stuff. Essentially, how to mix colors in most any medium, so that falls under color theory. But I really enjoyed being able to build my own canvases and set my own limits. I definitely pulled several all-nighters and would spend probably 40 hours a week in the studio. The most difficult and most rewarding was definitely the critiques, where we'd all gather together and talk about each other's work. That was how we were graded, but I'll have to admit, some of the work was a little strange or maybe difficult to understand. The highlight of my college experience, I actually got to go back to New York to Parsons at the New School. I got to live in Greenwich Village, wander around Bleecker Street, and act like Bob Dylan. Most importantly, I sold my first painting at the end of the program. About a year later, I was ready to graduate. Right out of school, I was lucky I got a job teaching art. It was almost unheard of in a great district. And I was on my way to the city. I got my first apartment and overpaid for an extra bedroom so I could have an art studio. That lasted a little while and I got a roommate, but it was the first time I became a vegan. Well, I've tried a few times. Let's just say I'm a recreational vegan at this point. After about 2 years in that place, I actually found a storefront where I could run an art gallery. I used it as my studio during the day and then would have shows at night. It was a ton of work, but I actually sold a decent amount of paintings. But after 4 years, my rent doubled, so I left.
This is the end of side 1 of this record. Please now, turn it over for the second side. The second side.
I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't that smooth of a transition. It actually led to about 2 years just trying to figure out what to do. I'd come home and sit in the dark, and basically the only thing I'd look forward to was watching YouTube videos. At that time, I really didn't even know you could subscribe to a YouTuber. I just kind of fell in love with keeping in touch with these people that were sharing their knowledge with me. Next thing you know, I had my own camera. I busted out my iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil and popped on to Procreate. I was inspired by people like Avante Vegan, incredibly produced videos and super informative. And then this guy, John Peters Art and Home, incredible and authentic voice. Like, all of his projects just made me realize, hey, I could do this. So I got to work. I created my first video, which was drawing in perspective. And within a few weeks, it was like 10,000 views or more. It was insane. So let's not forget, I couldn't do this without you guys. So I really appreciate every step along this journey. 500 subs, let's get to 1,000 and we'll celebrate again. Let me know what I should do for 1,000 subs and I'll be looking forward to it. So thanks again. This is Art with Mr. A, and don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back at you with another art video soon. Thanks again.